Hello, my name is Sierra Mitchell, and I am a second year applying to the Wealth and Development Program, and here are my case responses. So the prompt reads that according to Ron Busby, president of the U.S. Black Chambers, of the 2.6 million Black-owned businesses, 2.5 million have no employees. This fact reduces the ability of this sector to provide economic stability and improve the tax base in underserved communities, which limits access to quality education and healthcare. Improving the outcomes in these two areas will enhance African Americans' ability to participate in the 1.6 trillion tech market in the U.S. What are the factors that keep Black-owned businesses from scaling up and hiring more employees? And how can we increase the percentage of Black employees and other ethnic groups in the tech industry? So, to address the first question, what are the factors that keep Black-owned businesses from scaling up and hiring more employees? I've considered 6 different factors. Number 1 is a lack of access to venture capital. Number 2 is a short circulation time of dollars in the Black community. Number 3 is overrepresentation in low growth / real revenue industries. Number 4 is location. Number 5 is bank lending discrimination, and number 6 is the lack of financial literacy. So when we take a look at number 1, lack of access to venture capital, Black entrepreneurs are at a severe disadvantage. According to Accenture, Black entrepreneurs only receive about 1.4% of funding allocated by venture capital investors. Additionally, Black investors only make up 3% of the venture capital industry. So they conducted a survey, and 90% of firms with more than 7 investors did not have a single Black investor on their team. And so venture capital is definitely going to be an industry that is driven by personal connections. It's all about networking and who you know. And so it's going to be extremely difficult for Black entrepreneurs to gain this funding if there is nobody on these venture capital teams that look like them, who can empathize with them, and who can also relate to them and kind of see their business idea from a different perspective than maybe white team members may. And so additionally, Black entrepreneurs start their businesses with only around $35,000, whereas their white counterparts are starting with an average of $107,000. So this disparity is going to give Black entrepreneurs a lot less capital to start with, which means that they have a lot less resources and they have a lot less wiggle room for their business to be successful, which is going to stop them from expanding, and it's going to cause Black entrepreneurs to just have lower success rates. And when we look at number 2, when we have a short circulation of dollars in the Black community, the Black dollar only circulates for about 6 hours in its community, whereas it circulates 20 days in the Jewish community, and it circulates 30 days in the Asian community. Although Blacks have an estimated 1.3 trillion gross national income, only 2% of that is actually recirculated into the Black community. And the reason why this is such an issue is just because if we have this much buying power with our gross national income, we're not really putting that back into the community, that our own communities that could really benefit from this. So since our dollars are only in our community for about 6 hours, this means that it's likely going to white businesses or other ethnic minority businesses. But if we took the time to identify Black businesses that we could support in our local communities, this would definitely increase the economic stability of our area, as well as allow that Black business to create more jobs for people in that community and to provide more paychecks and provide just greater stability for families in the area. And it's difficult for Black communities to spend within their businesses, but if we rose the current 3% that Black individuals spend in their community to just 10%, it would create millions of new jobs and provide economic security to countless Black households. And this is eventually going to lead to the Black community being sufficient for themselves, like other minority communities such as the Jewish and Asian communities have achieved for themselves. And number 3 is overrepresentation in low growth and low revenue industries. So Black-owned businesses also earn lower revenues in most industries, and they're overrepresented in low growth and low revenue industries such as food service and accommodations. And the reason why this is such an issue is because when you're not generating enough revenue, that likely means that you're not generating as much profit, which means that you're not going to be able to expand and have more employees, or to invest in different resources, or expand to different locations and things of that nature. So one probable solution to this is to encourage Black entrepreneurs to get outside those low revenue industries such as food service and maybe expand into different opportunities of that nature. And number 4 is going to be location. So this also limits Black entrepreneurs' success rates, just because 65% of Black Americans live in 16 states that are below the U.S. average on indicators of economic opportunity. So within these communities, Black Americans are also disproportionately concentrated in economically disadvantaged neighborhoods. And so Black entrepreneurs from these communities are going to be less likely to have exposure to lucrative business opportunities, but they're also likely not going to have the customer base that's going to be able to support them, especially if this isn't an immediate need or an immediate product or service that is going to be beneficial to them. So within this location, Black entrepreneurs are likely not going to be in an area with people who have the disposable income to support their businesses. So moving on to number 5, we have bank lending discrimination. So in order for businesses to start, they need capital, and oftentimes Black entrepreneurs go to a bank. In one study, 73% of Black loans were asked to provide financial statements for their businesses, compared to only 50% of white applicants were asked for financial statements when both parties had similar profiles. Additionally, 31% of Black applicants were asked to provide their personal W-2 forms, whereas no white applicants were asked to provide such a form. And bank lending discrimination is definitely still present, although there are laws against it. And the reason why this is such a barrier is that there's too many different hoops that Black entrepreneurs have to jump through just to get the same funding as their white counterparts, even if similar credit scores, even if there's similar incomes that are coming into Black entrepreneurs. And so this means that they're less likely to get the loans to start their business in the first place, or they're going to get loans that have different interest rates, or they're not going to be granted the loan that they initially asked for, due to bias and due to discrimination, which is also going to contribute to them not being able to expand and have a successful enough business to hire more employees. And then number 6 is going to be lack of financial literacy amongst the community as a whole. So Black entrepreneurs, especially those who are coming from economically disadvantaged places, likely weren't going to be taught how to financially manage their money. So that means that they're going to have to take more time and effort and seek out resources in order to figure out, how do I start a business? What goes into that? How do I manage my money? What different types of accounts? How do I build credit? And things of that nature that just may not be widespread in the community already. Black entrepreneurs are having to kind of fight their way through to learn this information, whereas their white counterparts are likely going to be likely have this information kind of already laid out for them from their education system, whether that was like middle school or high school or college, or whether they gain that information from family members or other relationships. So moving on to question 2, how can we increase the percentage of Black employees and other ethnic groups in the tech industry? I've developed 4 different approaches. And so the first one is for companies to evaluate their talent pool sources and expand to specifically target minority candidates. So I'm suggesting that companies create partnerships with historically Black colleges and universities, also Black affinity groups on college campuses at predominantly white institutions. And so this is going to allow companies to be intentional about saying, hey, these individuals have talent, these individuals are being trained at their institutions. We need to recruit them to come work for us and to come experience our company's culture. And so when companies are intentional about building these relationships, it's also going to give them a sustainable talent pool for years to come, not just within that academic year. And so the next approach is going to be building partnerships for companies to build partnerships with minority-serving middle schools and high schools to expose younger students to careers in tech. So one thing that is often overlooked is to expose students not when they get to college, but when they're on the road to going to college. So when kids are at the middle school age and when they're finding out what they're passionate about, it's very easy to influence them and to expose them to different things that they may have not ever had the opportunity to do so. So exposing kids to careers that they've never heard of before is going to increase kids who are interested in tech and who are interested in pursuing a college career in that. It also is going to increase employability skills, and this is also going to give students mentors who look like them. So approach number 3 is for companies to have correct and accurate representation of Black executives in C-suite offices and executive boards. It's important for a company to have diversity on all levels of employment. So we want accurate representation at entry-level jobs just as we want C-suite jobs. We understand that executives have a hand in creating and sustaining culture, especially when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so having Black executives or other minorities on those boards, that's going to have a top-down approach because they're going to have a lot more say in what trainings and what company aspects are going to be facilitated throughout all their employees. And they're going to have more of a say than maybe an entry-level position would. And so number 4 is for diversity and bias education. So we want to make sure that the Black employees that do come to whatever tech company want to stay and feel comfortable at their tech company. So companies need to be responsible for supplying mandatory training and compliance so they understand different cultures, different racial and ethnic backgrounds, and this is going to stem all the way from the recruiting process all the way to C-suite level and in the middle to managers, and this is just going to promote an inclusive environment where Black employees are going to want to stay once they get their foot in the door. So these are my responses, and thank you so much for watching.